Okay, let me get this all situated for people who are going to meet. Okay. Test, test, test. Okay, so, whoops. I think I accidentally muted you, Louise. Welcome to Love and Money Secrets TV. I'm your host, Dame Lillian Walker, and I am so incredibly excited today because I have my fellow genius mystic healer, Louise Booth. Oh my gosh, I'm getting goosebumps just as I say her name. She has a remarkable story that I'm so excited to be able to bring to you guys because it is really extraordinary. She has had this massive transformation over the last year to 2 years. And so I wanted to bring, instead of a fragment of her story, I wanted her to have free rein to just basically share it all with us. So Louise, I know you're very, very busy. So thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for, oh my gosh, you do so much for so many. I'm so honored to be having you here in our presence.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I do want to apologize for my location today. It's not my normal location, but I'm at a friend's place and she has a baby. So that's the context there.
Hey, not a problem. No apology necessary. It's all about you. It's your heart being here with us. So before we dive in deep, and our common denominator is, of course, Dr. Joe, and you have an incredible Dr. Joe meditation group that has 80,000+ members on it. And you have interviewed some really neat people, but recently you shared a little snippet of how your life has transformed in one of your postings, which was when I said, you've got to come on and share with us that story, because it's really amazing. And during these incredibly trying times, the world has never seen what we've been seeing over the last 2 years with this pandemic. And with all the other nuances that people have going on in addition to. And despite that, you were able to transform, transmute, alchemize your life. So before we dive into that, I would love, absolutely adore, if you were to give us a little reference point and tell us, where were you born? Are you from a family of just an only child, or do you have many siblings or one other sibling? Or just give us some of those little details so that people can kind of relate to you.
Yep, sure. So I'm from the UK and now I live in Sydney, Australia. So that's where I am right now.
Okay.
I grew up in a family that didn't have a lot of money. It was me and my sister. She's 4 years younger than me. My dad worked all hours and never saw him. And my mom was a nurse, and we grew up in the countryside in England. And I had a pretty tough childhood. I'm not gonna lie, it was really hard. I got bullied a lot at school, and I really struggled through those years. And then when I finished school, I went to university in London, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I had depression. And I had that for at least 2 years, severe depression. And then like probably up until the age of maybe 26, 27, I had it, but I didn't know. It's only when I was in my 30s, mid 30s, I look back and thought, oh my goodness, that was depression. And I kind of got myself out of it. I saw Oprah once on her show, and she was interviewing someone that had written this book called Faith in the Valley. And I read that book, and that kind of helped me to sort myself out. But I didn't know I had depression, but I got myself out of it just through reading that book and working on myself. So that was what happened then. So yeah, that's a bit about my background.
Okay, so you're from the UK, you were born in the United Kingdom, and did you have, how many siblings did you have?
I have one sister, yeah.
One sister, okay, you're lucky. I have, physiologically, I don't have any sisters, but I have soul sisters from the heart like yourself. So that's pretty cool that you have one sister. So fantastic. So, and that's interesting. I love that you made that distinction that you had depression, but at the time you weren't even aware that you had it. You knew that something obviously was up, but you didn't identify it with the label of depression until much later. And I can relate with that, because now looking back, when I went through my divorce, I realized, wow, I was actually in a very deep, dark depression. I didn't have, I don't know if I didn't have the capacity or if I was in denial, but I couldn't language it and say that I was depressed. Those words never came out of my mouth. But recently I looked back and realized, oh, wow, that I was actually in depression for a good amount of time, unfortunately. And it happens to us. So let me see, I got to make sure that whoever comes in, I have to figure out how to set the settings so that as people come in, they are muted. So the last person to come in, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to see if I can mute you. I don't know why in the drop down it doesn't have a mute here. If I mute all, then I'm going to mute you, Louise, and I don't want you to be muted. So I think I've got everything muted. Everyone muted, other than, I think Alma is the only person on here. So Alma, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself, that would be fantastic. And then we can move on. Just realized I hadn't started the recording. So nonetheless, we're going to keep moving forward. And nonetheless, I wanted to make mention of, okay, so that nuance that you recognize that you had something didn't feel right. So that led you to pay attention to what Oprah had in terms of that particular book, that what she was saying was resonating with you. So you purchased the book, and then you went through the steps, and then you were able to resolve that. So that's really a fantastic, I think, nuance for anybody who's watching this, to recognize that you may have just the recognition that you have a feeling that doesn't settle well with you, a feeling that's not happy, it's not joy, it's not loving towards yourself. It may be depression. It may be something else. It really doesn't matter. The thing is, it's a negative, lower vibrational frequency that doesn't feel good inside your body. And you realize it's like something's got to change. So the label doesn't really matter, but we're all individually responsible for how we show up in the world and how we move forward. So then what happened after this whole Oprah event, and you're reading this book? So tell us a little bit about some of the steps that you were taking forward, and what were you doing? Was this after you had graduated from school, or were you still in school?
I left school at 18, and I went to study at university in London, and I was really lonely, and I had depression, but I didn't know what it was. And so I couldn't sleep at night. I found the nights really hard. So I got a job in a cocktail bar so that I would never have to be alone at night. It sounds really bizarre now, but like that's what I did. I just worked in a cocktail bar. I finished at 4 a.m. I'd go and have Chinese dinner with the staff. And then I'd be so exhausted, I'd fall asleep. It was the only way I could go to sleep.
Great idea.
It was pretty bad. And then obviously my university grades were failing because I was working. And so after 2 years, I was like, I'm failing my university degree. Something has to change. And around that time is when I saw Oprah on TV. And I was like, I need to make a big change. So I decided to leave university for a year, take a year off, and go and live in Italy for a year. I had like a little bit of money that I'd saved, and I just went to Italy. I had nothing. I didn't speak the language. I had nothing planned. I moved to Rome. I found a place to live with some other people. None of them spoke English. And I spent the next 3 or 4 months unable to speak to anyone. because I couldn't speak Italian and they couldn't understand me. And for days, I didn't even open my mouth. Like I had no one to speak to. And I had this depression and I couldn't speak to anyone. And my parents were like, if you can't make it work, you can just come home because we're not going to fund you. So eventually I had to get a job. So I got my flatmates through a Spanish guy had broken English and broken Italian to say like, come and help me get this job. And so they came with me, they got me this job in this cafe, and within 3 hours I got fired because I couldn't speak Italian. I was like the only time I've been fired from a job. And then anyway, like long story short, I taught myself Italian. I got the money together to buy a book. I was living on like €1 a day. Seriously, I didn't have any money. I managed to pull some money together from working in an Irish pub where I could actually go there and speak in English. And to get a book, I taught myself Italian from this book. And then I got a job as a tour guide for Americans, Canadians, British, Germans. I made a ton of money being a tour guide. I read 5 books a week. I told myself everything about Roman history, Roman architecture, became a tour guide, made a lot of money, paid my parents back some debts, traveled around Europe, bought nice clothes, went out for dinners, did everything. And then I came back and finished my degree. So at that point, I'd say I was pretty much out of the depression, though I think it came back in waves after because I had low points. But I sorted myself out. I went back, I finished my degree, I got a good grade. And then I sort of stepped into my career from that point on.
Wow, that's incredible. So another thing we share in common is that we lived in Italy. And my goal was I learned Italian and Spanish at the same time when I lived with my Italian grandmother for 3 years. And so, but I never learned to read it or write it because I was learning to read or write cold immersion, Spanish. And so in 2019, I went to live in Italy. So I'm curious, whereabouts in Italy did you go to live? Where did you actually live?
In Furio Camillo, which is like a suburb in Rome.
Oh, okay. North or south?
South, not that far south.
Okay, so south of the Vatican City then.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is so fantastic. What an incredible story. So you learned, you chose to learn Italian well enough where you could be a tour guide. That's incredible.
Yeah, I was fluent by then. I even had like a Roman accent. It was really crazy.
Which is different when you travel throughout Italy. Sardo is differently from very different from Sicilian, very different from Roman Italian, Southern Italian. So that is so cool. Oh my gosh. So how long were you there? And when did you come back? Or
literally just over a year, I guess I was there. I was 20 when I went there. I had my 21st birthday there. And then I came back the following year to finish my degree. My parents were like, you have to come back and finish your degree. I'm like, okay. So I did. And being a tour guide was a very up and down. Like it wasn't an easy job, let's just say that. Because you're performing every day. You've got to put on a show. You can't just roll out of bed and have a bad day at work. Like you just want to make money if you're not good. So yeah, it wasn't a long-term option for me to be a tour guide, but it was fun anyway. Yeah.
Wow, what an incredible experience. Very varied, and wow, that's so fantastic. So now, I always I've been interviewing people I started interviewing people when I was 11, but I actually had a radio show, and one of the things that I started to see as I did a series on the secrets to success on that radio show, I noticed that no experience is ever wasted. From the time we are in preschool until present time, all experiences are for our benefit. And even when they seem totally unrelated and one thing has nothing to do with another, over the trajectory of time, then you start to realize and you can integrate and use things in the most uncanny way that no one else will be able to do. So I'm kind of curious to see how these pieces of the puzzle are coming together that brought you to this point where, I don't know how many years ago you started the Dr. Joe meditation group, but what brought you even to Dr. Joe that put him on your awareness where you started to go down that path?
Yeah. So I was in London. I worked in London. I had a career in London. I guess I always felt like there was something missing. Like I was never really happy in my jobs. And I went from relationship to relationship. And so there was a lot of just jumping around a lot. And then one day I was in a shared house. There was 6 of us living in the shared house, and there was another shared house next to us, and we were friends. And I went over to the shared house. We were having a party or something, and one of the guys there was like, "You have to read this book." And I'm like, "What is the book?" And he's like, "The Secret." And it had just been out not that long.
Oh,
So I read the book, The Secret, and I really connected with Abraham Hicks
I
of all the
love.
characters. Esther, yeah. And so I got into her quite heavily and tried to manifest a new life for myself, which I did. I manifested a long-term partner and kids and moving to Australia. And I manifested all of that from doing her work. So that, and then I just thought that was everything to life, was just manifesting. I thought that was it. Until Dr. Joe, obviously.
Ah.
But I guess you can see it's kind of tearing up.
Well,
And
I love that
yeah,
you're saying that it's tearing up, because as we continue progressing and our consciousness expands, I've been saying for years, you don't know what you don't know until you know it. And oh boy, this whole path, for anyone who is not only on this Zoom call, but who's watching this on YouTube, whether you're watching it live or whether you're watching it later, um, we're having all these points of awareness that are intersecting at this point in time. But make no mistakes, our consciousness, as it expands, you start to realize and recognize things and understand them at a deeper level. And then you're like, oh my gosh. And then you start to implement and apply, because we all have a growth mindset, or we wouldn't be on this broadcast right now. And so I'm very curious to hear what happened next. Oh my gosh. So yeah, Abraham Hicks. I love Esther. Amazing. Because a lot of things are very similar. It's just the languaging and the approach is different. And I think they help color as you study, with different teachers and mentors. It kind of gives you a comprehensive view, feeling, and perspective so that you can apply it.
yeah, totally. And yeah, I do love Esther, and her stuff really resonated with me. And I really just did what she said to do. And I had this picture of this family with like a couple with 3 boys at the beach. And I'm like, that's it. That's what I want. And then, yeah, things happened. I met my partner. He was Australian. We moved to Australia. We live not that far from the beach, and we've had 3 kids. So it all just manifested. I mean, I'm kind of jumping over things, but I just kind of like stuck with it. And, when I first met him, he didn't want to have kids. And I was like, that's okay. Because Abraham says, don't worry about it. Like, it's going to happen. So I was like, if he's not the right guy, he doesn't want to have kids, no problem. Like, I'm not going to push it with him. And then one day he just turned around and changed his mind. Like, that's how it goes.
He was finally ready. And because, it's the time element. There's 2 things with time, because of course we all are like microwaves. We want instant manifestations. There's divine timing too. And part of manifesting is like, you put your order in, which you did very clearly, and you are excellent at being able to let it go, knowing that at the divine time, it's going to happen. Whether he remains of the person who is going to be completing that picture, or whether they will gently move out and someone else will come in to fulfill that picture. You are you surrendered, knowing that it's like, it's all good, it's all done. And so I think that's a very key thing for all of us to keep in mind. So that's brilliant that you were able to be aware of that then, and that you're sharing it with us right now.
Yeah. And you get those moments where you notice that things aren't how you want them to be. And that's when you have to catch yourself and go, God's choice. It happened the way it's going to happen. It's not for me to, comment on how things are. And yeah, there was some moments like I nearly lost my second child, like when I was pregnant with her, and I had some I had basically had a bad test. Like, they do these ultrasounds as you have the baby, and I had a really bad one that said she was really high risk for Down syndrome.
Oh my
And
God.
they did all these tests, and I was waiting for the test results, and I was like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to watch funny movies all night and just laugh the whole night and just get into a really high vibration state. Like, that was it. I was like, I'm just going to do it, and I expect the best. And then the best happened. It was like such a slim chance that she was going to be perfectly fine. Everything was against us, and then it worked out. So I was like, that, you just have to do whatever, watch funny movies all night, whatever it takes.
So you were already, I don't know that you would have called it that then, but you were already mastering yourself, because in light of an unwanted situation, you're like, okay, I see what the 3D manifestation and what the 3D evidence is. And this dark, the cards are stacked against you at that point. And you're like, okay, no, my clear intention and elevated emotion, I'm not going to add an elevated emotion of, oh no, oh my gosh, and freak out and get angry, get sad, get grief. You paused. You're like, okay, I recognize what's before me. I'm just going to put myself in a good state. I'm not going to let ego go wild with me. I'm going to hit the pause button. I'm going to get myself into a happy, elevated emotion, do a laugh therapy because it feels good, which Esther is so brilliant about always saying, you have to pay the price of joy. Imagine that. So you're flooding your body with endorphins. You're escaping, which is a good thing. You're escaping, you're playing, pretending, making believe as you vicariously live this experience with these funny movies. And what you inadvertently were doing was taking the particles the way they were presenting right now with the elevated emotion, because you had a clear intention of wanting a healthy baby. You're taking the wave forms of energy and focusing on what you want, which is a happy, healthy baby. And then the elevated emotions of love, appreciation, gratitude, and lots of joy. Joy is way higher than love. People don't realize love is 528 hertz frequency, and joy and bliss and being in that exhilaration and that beautiful endorphin bath of the brain and the body is like 700 or 800 hertz as opposed to 500 hertz. So you cemented the vision of that healthy baby so that when things came to pass, boom, that's what came out. You changed what could have been an inevitable reality. You were able to morph it into the reality that you wanted. Oh my gosh, you're like Dr. Joe calls you the living embodiment of truth again.
Yeah, and the crazy thing was I didn't know of Dr. Joe back then. And I feel like thinking about back then, I was kind of struggling through the dark. Like I literally just had Abraham. That's all I had to work with. And which was amazing. Obviously it worked, but I didn't have all of the science that Dr. Joe explains behind it and everything.
You apparently you didn't need it then, and it was enough because the universe, the divine, God Almighty provides you exactly what you need at that time, at that moment for your greatest good. And you trusted it. And so I really want to point out how amazing it is that you were able to self-master and say, I'm not going to give in to the negative thoughts and then waste days, weeks, months in that dark, gloomy place of, oh, no. You hit the pause button right away. I'm like, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to do this laugh therapy. I'm going to put myself in a better feeling place, pay the price of joy, like Esther, Abraham says through Esther so eloquently, daydream and, just have that wonderful feeling experience. And boom, and it came to pass. So kudos for you that your second child came out fine. So then what happened next? Keep going. This is getting juicy.
So I had her, and then just life continued. Not happy in my jobs, but I got my kids and all of this stuff. And then when I had my third baby, just had her, I found Dr. Joe, and I think I just saw him on an interview, or I found him on YouTube or something like this. I can't remember exactly, but it could have been an interview that he did that I saw him. And so I got the Blessing of the Energy Centers one. I didn't read any of his books. I think I just watched the interviews, and then I did that meditation, and I did it in between, feeding the baby or whatever time of day or night it was. And it felt nice. Like I had a nice sensation go through my body, and I was like, this is nice. And then I tried one of the other ones where his voice sounds kind of strange when you first hear him, and I was like, I cannot get into this. Like, this is just, what is this? Like, it's weird. And so I stuck with the Blessing of the Energy Centers because I felt like it was the easiest one to get into to start with, but I just had a sensation or feeling. And then I saw an interview with Esther where she talks about how she came to connect with Abraham. I don't know if you've heard her story. But
Oh,
she just had an intention that she wanted to connect with Abraham or connect with someone after Seth books and all of the other stuff that she had done. And she just said that she had this intention. She just wanted to do it. And I had one of her meditations that I was doing as well. And then I was just like, well, I want what Esther had. I want to have that happen for me. I want to connect and hear things when I meditate. And she said that she felt like when she first connected with Abraham, she felt like when she breathed in, someone else breathed in for her. That's what she said. Like Abraham breathed her, something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then the weird thing was I did her meditation and the exact same thing happened to me. And I was like, no, I must be just making this up. Like, why would it be the same experience? But it did. The same thing happened. And then nothing happened for a while. And then I did the meditation with Dr. Joe and I literally heard a voice. I saw symbolism. I saw images. It was like clairvoyance and clairaudience. I had both. And I was like, I'm just going to roll with it. And then pretty much every meditation I had, it was like these downloads were just coming in every meditation pretty much. And then I just, like that's how it started.
So this is awesome that you're talking about this, because everyone, like Dr. Joe always says, no one is so special that you can't do this. If you're a human being, and I talk about the mirror test. Now I'm going to tell you what the mirror test is, because I've had people who private message me or put in the reply comments like, what's the mirror test? The mirror test is you just hold a mirror up to your breath. And if you can fog it up, basically you're alive, you're breathing. If you fog up a mirror, you pass the mirror test. That means that you can do this. And you said something that was spot on, which is, I just intended to have that experience too. And so I've had people say, okay, I think I know what an intention is, but I hear intention so much that I'm not sure that I really know how to do an intention. And that's just an inward attention is what an intention is. Your focus is on the inside because it's not all out there in the 3D. You're going, quieting yourself down. Like Dr. Joe says, you slow down your breath, slow down your heart rate, slow down your brain waves. You relax head to toe. You set an inward attention. You're focusing your conscious awareness. I want to have this experience. I want to receive the downloads. I want to be experiencing the mystical. I want to receive whatever that infinite intelligence is. I want it to be in me, through me, and all around me. That's it. You don't have to get the exact words. It's just saying, I want that. That energy knows it, for heaven's sake, it brought you from 5D through your parents to be here at this moment in time. Surely it understands your intention without, even if you don't know what the words are exactly, you don't even have to go back and rewatch this and copy these words down. Just say, I want the same experience as Louise, the same experience as Abraham, the same experience as Dr. Joe, whatever. Just, I want that experience. Done. Now you just silence the ego, put your brain and say, do as I say. Done. And now you're allowing. So what happened next, Louise? Oh my gosh, this is getting even juicier and juicier.
I want to say something about intention that I realized really recently about how to describe it in a way that just makes a lot of sense, is that when I was at school, I what do you call it? Like auditioned for a part in the school play. And I never got the parts in the school play, but I just woke up that day and I was like, I'm going to get the lead role. I don't know how. I'm taking it. I'm taking the lead role. And if it doesn't happen, that's okay, because I'll know I put everything into it. That's intention. I just decided that I was going to have the lead role. And if I didn't get it, I'm not attached to the outcome. It's like, I know I put everything into it. And I did get the lead role. But the point was like, that for me is intention. Like, like I had really bad back pain a few days ago. And I was literally I had to go to the doctor to get stronger painkillers, and I was lying on my back. And I was like, no, I'm going to go and do the breath work and my back's going to be fine. I don't know when, I don't know how, I'm not attached.
Doesn't matter.
Go and do the breath work. And literally within 24 hours, my back was back to normal, all gone. Because the doctor was like, it could take a couple of weeks for this pain to go, because you've obviously done something to the nerves within the spine or something. That's intention, I think.
That is intention, and you were being it, and you already know the formula, so you just applied it again. You knew your clear intention was very clear. You didn't want that back pain. You wanted to be pain-free. You wanted to be in a whole and healthy, good feeling state. So you don't focus on the pain. You focus on, no, I just want to feel good and I want to feel healthy and complete. And so that's the clear intention. You added the elevated emotion. You don't know when, you don't know how, it doesn't matter. It can happen the moment you finish the breathing. It could be a 3-minute meditation where you just slow down your breath, slow down your heart rate, your brain waves, take 10 deep breaths, and just have the intention of whatever that issue is that's bothering you in your body or out in 3D. And then you let it go and go, I don't know when and I don't know how, it doesn't really matter. 30 seconds later, boom, 15 minutes later, a day later, a week later, it can pop into your experience. None of it matters. And the more you do it, the faster it becomes, which for me has been the most mind-blowing aspect, because it sounds like you've also experienced that, where you're like, okay, I'm just going to apply this formula. And then boom, your back pain was gone. So much for the doctor's 2 weeks. It's like, you know how to do this. You set the right intention and it was done. Wow.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I went through a long period of like listening to the downloads and everything. And then, life happens. I stopped doing the meditations as frequently. I disconnected. And when you don't do the meditations every day, it takes longer to connect in, because you've got to get through all of the thinking and the noise in your head. But when you do it regularly, it's easier to connect in. And now I've just had a lot of mystical experiences, and I'd never even done a reading before Dr. Joe. I've never had a reading done. I've never had energy work done. I didn't know anything about it. I've nothing, never read a spiritual book. I'm not religious, nothing. So I've gone from being very like intellectual, rational to like a completely different perspective.
Totally tuned in, tapped in, and turned on. But you have that point of contrast where you're like, wow, it's like, the before and the after, and that it's like a night and day. The nighttime gives definition to the day. You need both for contrast, because without the nighttime, if it were daytime all the time, then no one would know what the definition of day was, because there wouldn't be the darkness of the nighttime to separate daytime from nighttime, kind of like hot and cold, the same thing. So this is absolutely awesome, but it also signals to everyone out there that it's like, okay, this whole experience that we're talking about applying the formula, of doing the meditation, of tuning in, tapping in, and turning on to the divine, is not tied to your IQ. Your IQ doesn't matter. I'm going to tell you this because I had a couple of mystical experiences where, the higher your IQ, the more in your way you're going to get. It's just because you can rationalize and you can over intellectualize, and you want to prove so much to yourself. So your left brain does get in your way the higher your IQ is. But I had a meditation very specifically where the divine told me, it's like, this is not about your IQ. And yes, I gave you a certain IQ, and your intelligence is to be used for certain things. It's not supposed to be used for everything, because if it were supposed to be used for everything, then you wouldn't need to connect to me, to the divine. And there's only certain things that you're supposed to use your IQ. The rest, you're supposed to tune in to me and allow me to bring those things that there's no way your left brain will ever figure out, because it doesn't have the capacity. You have to be tuned in. So that's where your belief and your trusting in that energy that created you and made the body, you have to allow. I think that you've been so awesome. It's taken me a long time to finally figure out how to let go and surrender. But it sounds like you were able to do that earlier on, which is really magnificent. So our IQ, our intelligence, we're supposed to have a left brain. That's why we have it. And the thing is, Einstein was one of the first that I recall saying in the early 1900s, it's like, intelligence will only take you so far, but your intuition, when you're tapped into the divine, that's where all the magic, that's where all life's coming attractions, every single invention, every single solution to every problem that science has had has not come from the left brain. They didn't figure it out. It came through a dream. It came through an intuitive hit. It came through meditation. It's all through that aspect, not tied to anyone's IQ. And again, everyone has access to this. So, oh my goodness. So then what happened next?
Well, that's it really. Like I'll happily share with you any of the kind of meditation experiences. There's one I will share with you because I've got a friend who is like, you know, some things in my life aren't going well. I need to go to a Dr. Joe week long. By the way, I've never been to a week long. I've only ever done his meditations, right? I need to go to a week long because I need to sort my life out. And I said to her, like, Dr. Joe is a vehicle to connect you with the divine, but it's not something you need to have to connect to the divine. Like, he is an amazing vehicle, but he's just a vehicle to get there. And I said to her that I do Kundalini yoga. And I went through this Kundalini yoga like one afternoon, whatever. And for some reason, as soon as I started the Kundalini yoga, I went straight in. I connected straight in. It was nuts. Because I could spend like hours trying to connect in. And you know who I connected with when I don't really know how far I can, or how much I can tell you, but I connected in with Paramahansa Yogananda. Ooh. And yes. Wow. I read his book twice and I'm studying the Kriya Yoga. I'm really excited about it, about being initiated into Kriya. And I've never connected with him before. And that was the second time I've connected with him. He's very funny, actually. And I was in Kundalini, connected in, going, but this is really strange because I didn't do a Dr. Joe meditation. And Paramahansa Yogananda said to me, well, I connected into the divine all the time and I never went to a week long.
Yeah, they're just different energies, but we're all part of the same source. So this is fantastic. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was just funny because like he died in the 1920s. So of course, it was just funny like that. So you don't need to, it's not the only way you can connect in if you're open.
Absolutely. Well, so there's an infinite realm of possible experiences and energies that you can connect to. And all of it has to do with us using basically our right brain, which is the seat of our consciousness, and tapping into that. And I love the fact that in your particular experience, you've never been to a 7-day Dr. Joe advanced event, and still you just did the meditations, you knew that it would work, and then you surrendered to the process, and the rest is history. So you have to share with our viewers and our participants here over the last year and a half or two. I know that your I don't know if I want to call it your business, what you do for a living, but I know that you've had a radical transformation over the last 24 months. Your income has gone through the roof. It's an exponential thing. So many things have happened. So take us back to like 2-3 years ago, where you were 2-3 years ago, because that's radically different from where you are right now. And I'm so happy to be able to celebrate with you because it really is, I think, very encouraging, very inspiring. And it lets people know here that this is possible. And it doesn't have to take 5 or 10 years. It doesn't even have to take 2 or 3. Over the next few months, they can start to experience these. I mean, heck, in the next few days, you could start to experience the same day, you could start to experience incredible things. So share with us where you were like 3 years ago, and then what started to unfold as you started to basically turn your ship in a direction. We're all zigzagging our way to success until we get to the final last breath. So what happened?
So after what I've just explained, I had that baby, the third one. And then I decided I didn't want to go back to that job. It was a really tough job. The office was in the UK. I was working evenings and during the day, and it was really tough. And I decided I wanted to manifest a new job. And I've only mentioned this very briefly because then I'll move on to the more important bit about my business. But there was one video I listened to from Abraham Hicks, where they said that if you really truly believe in the moment that something has already happened, it can come instantly.
Yes.
And I had interviewed at this job and I was like, oh, I really like this job and I think it's the one I want. And then I just, got myself into the state. Like I was just out in the shopping mall and I got myself into the state where I was like, oh my goodness, I've got this job. And I started crying because I was like, oh my goodness, I got this job. And literally while I was crying, the guy called me and offered me the job.
I so love that because, okay, now because we've studied Dr. Joe, we understand the science, and of course, we do our own separate studies in physics and so forth. But we know that your autonomic nervous system and trained with that guy. So as you acknowledged it and you embodied it and you allowed yourself to feel the elevated emotions, he felt that, and he's like, wait a minute, that's the girl. That's who we need. So he's like, he can't wait a minute longer. So as you're celebrating, going, yes, 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 that's my job. He's going, hey, congratulations. When can you start? And you're like, I already knew this. This is so cool. But that's how it works.
Yes. And when you've hit that point, because when you've hit that point and the event actually happens, you don't feel any different because you already felt like you'd already achieved
celebrated. Yeah, you already celebrated it. Yeah. So it's
you don't feel any different. Yeah.
And I gotta say, tell me if it's the same for you, because the trippiest thing for me is that when the experience then manifests in 3D, you would think it would be like a deja vu, but it doesn't feel like deja vu. It's like a direct rewind from what you saw in your mind's eye. And the exact same thing, the part I still don't quite, it baffles me, it excites me. And it's like, oh my gosh, the other person says exactly what I saw in my mind's eye. And I'm like, how could they possibly, doesn't matter whether it's English, if it's Italian, or if it's Spanish, I'm like, that's uncanny. And so it's like, it always excites me even more because I'm like awestruck how could it be exact like that? But it is. And so that is just encouraging. And of course, it increases your belief the more times it happens. But like you're saying, it's like when it happens in 3D, it's like you've already been celebrating. So that feeling continues on.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. So I got that job. I started the job and then it ended up being the job from hell. Like it was just such a bad company to work for. And the guy that put me in the job, he didn't realize, how it was going to end up. And I got to the point where I was like, I want to be able to work 1 day a week from home. I got kids. And the guy running it was like very old school. And he's like, no, you're not working 1 day a week from home. You're not working 5 days and 4 days. You're not doing whatever. He was just like, no one gets to work from home in this company. And I was like, wouldn't it be great if I could just work from home? And then COVID hit and we were forced to work a couple of days from home. And I was like, wow, this worked out really well. And then I was like, what if I could just always work from home? And then things got worse and they were like, you can't work in the office anymore. You have to work from home. It was like government mandate here. And I was like, great. I'm not in that toxic environment as much. So I do agree with the fact that you just need to be able to overcome your environment. Like Dr. Joe says, you can't just expect things to be fine in your environment for you to elicit change, but it helps that I wasn't in there. And so I did the meditations, and I'm really into the walking meditations. Like they really get me in a state. And I did, was it number 3? I think it was like number 3 or number 4. And I just got into the state, and I have to say this thing happened where I felt a shift. Like in the Matrix when they see the black cat twice. It was like something's changed. I don't know what it is, but something shifted in this reality because I felt a shift. And I was like, I want to run my own business. And my husband was like, no, because it's COVID. I don't want you quitting your job. It's not, we don't know, what's going to happen. We want you to stay safe. So you're not quitting your job. And I was like, that's okay. Because quitting my job is egoically trying to make stuff happen. Yeah. And then I had a shift, and I was like, I just kept doing the meditations. And then I had a call from my boss saying, you need to come back to the office. And I'm like, I really don't want to go to the office. I was like, no. That's just an old emotion.
Yeah.
That's an old emotion. Don't respond to the fact that you have to go to the office because that's not your reality anymore. Let it go. Like that's the past. Brilliant. So I went to the office and I was like, I know what I'm going to do, because there was a park right next to my office. I was like, I'm going to go to the office. I'm going to drop my bag. I'm going to go in the park and I'm going to do a walking meditation before work. So I'll be in a really good state. So I dropped my bag. And when I went into the office and I looked at my desk, I was like, this doesn't feel like my desk anymore. It feels like someone before me, you know, like this isn't mine anymore. It's like it was in black and white. I don't know how to describe it, but it felt, you know, like the past. Yeah. I did the most beautiful walking meditation. I was off in another place. Oh, it was just ecstasy. It was amazing. I don't know. I just had the most amazing time. I connected in. It was just beautiful. I come back to the office and my team are there. I had like a team that I managed. We're all in the office, and the HR said to me, come into the boardroom. And I'm like, is my boss arrived? Because he was in another city, so he had to fly over. And they're like, oh no, he's not coming in today. And I'm like, well, why did he call me in the office then? And they put the thing on, and they were like, we're really sorry to inform you, but we're actually going to be shutting down the entire marketing department. And so I basically got made redundant. And I'm like, no way. There's no way a company that spends over $1 million a year on marketing would shut an entire marketing department. Like, you can't make this stuff up. I didn't get fired. I didn't get made redundant. They removed the entire department.
You are an amazing manifester, because you're just saying that's not my desk anymore. And the universe always finds the path of least resistance to bring you, as long as you don't get in your way, to bring you what it is that you want. And you did one walking meditation and you said, this desk, that doesn't feel like my desk anymore. This is like the past. I've outgrown this. This is really what I want. And you get this. You
just can't make this stuff up. I told so many people, no one gets rid of an entire department. Like, who's going to manage the $1 million marketing budget? I'm like, I don't know. I don't care.
It's not your monkey yet, not your circus.
Yeah. So that was huge. I was really like, obviously my team were devastated. I had to take them through that process and help them through it. And, you know, I felt like, I don't know if you ever get this when you do the meditations, when Dr. Joe asks you to be nobody. And then after a while, when you start to release your personality, you feel a bit like, I don't really know who I am anymore. You know, like that, almost like a little bit of fear. We're like, I don't know who I am anymore. If I'm not that personality, who am I?
I haven't had fear about my personality. The only time that I've had fear is the fear of falling, which I've talked about when we do the Bowtech meditation classes and some of the other broadcasts I've had, because I've had in the past a fear of heights. And so, like, people jumping out of perfectly good planes, I'm like, why would anybody in their right mind jump out of a perfectly good plane? Why would they, that doesn't make any sense. And of course, I got over my fear of heights with the very first Dr. Joe event that I went to, because back in 2019, he still was doing the challenge events. I didn't know there was a challenge aspect to the 7-day. I just thought it was meditation all day long. So can you imagine my shock when he says, oh, we're going outside tomorrow, we're going to be doing a challenge event. Like, challenge what? And then the 55-foot plank that's 3 inches wide that you have to walk from one side to the other. I was like, thank goodness I didn't know. Now I'm like committed. It's like, I can't back out, right? So I kind of got over that, but my fear came from, like, in meditation, the feeling, because when your energy body starts to leave, when you're no one, nobody, no thing, nowhere, no place, and no time, that feeling is like you're falling at first. And if you don't stop it because of fear and you let go, then what happens is you don't fall, you float. So then that's where you start to experience the mystical, because you're no one, nobody, no thing, nowhere, no place, and no time. And that's where all the stuff gets really juicy and you start expanding and learning, and you have those downloads. You go to, I went to different dimensions. I didn't even know. I knew that there were other dimensions, but I would have never asked, because usually when I've had mystical experience, I go far away. I have no idea where I am. But in one of my experiences, I was actually taken to 3 specific dimensions, and they told me, welcome to, the 6th, So I don't know, the whole fear of losing my personality hasn't come up for me, but we're all different. We all have different.
Yeah.
We all have different
experiences have been so different to mine, which is really interesting, actually.
Yeah, everybody. Well, I think that's why I love having, fellow Dr. Joe students like yourself, to come share, because no 2 people ever have the exact same experience. It's impossible. Just like no 2 of my meditations have ever been identical. I'm sure no 2 of your meditations have ever been identical. It's always it's fluid. So it's always whatever you need perfectly at that moment in time. So it's fascinating because as I listen to you, and I get nuances and distinctions that I know always help me further my experience in my meditative practice. And so, yeah, so I love everything that you've been sharing here is just really extraordinary. And I think very telling for everyone who is viewing this and hearing this, because a lot of people are in jobs, positions, companies, businesses that they've outgrown, don't fit them. Some of them, maybe it's not their jobs, maybe it's a relationship that they've outgrown, that they've been not loving themselves enough to know that, you know what, you guys were in this journey for a certain period of time, and you could have a gentle going on your separate ways where it doesn't have to be belligerent fighting, doesn't have to be ugly and acrimonious. It could be a gentle, like, I can't imagine. I mean, it's like what a gentle moving on where the entire company had this massive, that's a massive change. But and you didn't know, you didn't try to direct that. You're like, the outcome is this is no longer my desk. This is no longer my job. You just did this walking meditation and let it go. And boom, immediately it came right in an astonishing way. And I think there's a reason why your coworkers then came to you and said, wait a minute, this is like, because you're there to help them. You're like the bridge to help them get across the troubled waters. This troubled waters could be the biggest blessing in disguise, because some of them probably were like not feeling very comfortable, not completely happy. They probably had outgrown that position too, but it's like they're like settling and not doing anything about it. The universe is going, let's give a few of these people a kick in the caboose. And they're like, you know what? They got Louise there. They're going to be fine. She'll help them. She'll be the lifesaver and she'll help usher the sheep, onto greener pastures. So everything works out for a reason.
Yeah.
So then what happens? Now you're free of that ball and chain, so to speak, that obligation, that responsibility.
We just left the office. I had coffee with my team. Then I went and had falafels, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll just go home now. And I felt like I knew I'd done it. I knew I'd created it, but I still felt a bit like, okay, now what? Now I really am living in the unknown because I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. Like I don't have a job now. What am I doing? So I really was living in the unknown, and I tried to, with some of the people that were in the company, the senior leadership, they still needed marketing support. So I was trying to get some freelance work from them. I'm like, because like, who's going to do our staff lead? There's no marketing. And I'm like, well, I could help out, but that never came to pass. And I had a very troubled beginning of starting my business. Like it took me a long time to get my first clients. I had everything came up, everything that I'd not looked at through my corporate career came and hit me in the face. Lack of worthiness, a lack of self-belief. I don't have any client results. How can I start a business? Forget the 17 years of marketing experience I had in corporate that obviously count for something, but I was like, no, I don't have any results. I don't know how to get the first clients. I don't know how to start and run a business. And I signed up to all these different courses and gurus and stuff, and very much building the business the way they said to do it because they had done it before. So they know what they're talking about. So I just got to do it the way they tell me to do it. I did finally get some clients. I lost them just before Christmas. So this was Christmas of 2020, last year.
Just a year.
Yeah, just a year ago. So I got my first clients I left my company in June, end of June. And then I got my first clients maybe September, October time. So there was a big gap before I got clients, maybe October. I got my first client, or maybe it was even later, it was November, but then by December, I lost them all because of COVID. They were dentists in the US, and they were like, well, clients aren't coming in, so we don't really need marketing right now. So I lost all my clients before Christmas.
Actually, you need more marketing instead of, they have it, a lot of business owners have it backwards. When you don't have any clients, you need to boost your marketing. You need more exposure because not enough people know about you. So that's the only way you're going to get more people to come in to help feed your bottom line. So, oh my gosh. So, wow.
So I really didn't know where money would come from. I didn't really have any money left. And then in January, my grandmother died. So it was January of this year, my grandmother died. She was 101 and she died of COVID in England. So I never got to see her. And my parents sent me this book of her life. And she was one of those people where she was an opera singer and a flower arranger. She dressed absolutely immaculately and she just did what she loved. I've never heard her once worry about money. She didn't make any money from those jobs. She just did them because she followed her passion. She's one of those people that's like an amazing role model. Like I look back at her life and I'm like, she had an amazing life. Yeah, she was in World War II and, you know, she had a lot of challenges in her life, but she was always the person that said to me, if you find a dress or a top that you like, always buy two, darling, so that, you know, it lasts longer. You know, one of those kinds of people. And I was like, no, I'm like struggling in my business and I don't want to live that way. I want to live like her, which is,
yes,
life's short. Just do what you love. Like it's too short to stress out about these things.
That's so interesting that my mother's sister was like that. She passed away not too long ago. And she was like that. She was like herself own crowned princess. And she never worried about money. She had maids and, you know, her husband absolutely adored her. And she pretty much bought anything she ever wanted. She had, instead of her having to go to a classroom and teach, no, she had very, very wealthy clients where their kids needed special attention. And so they brought those kids to her home in her home office. And she traveled all over the world to buy. She never just bought in her local stores. No, she'd fly to Miami, fly to Milan, fly to France, fly to wherever she felt like to shop, never had to care or worry about money. And she would always say, my nickname's Leela. So she'd go, Leela, in this life, you have to have money. She'd go, you have to have money, but you have to do what you love. And if you don't love doing it, like she goes, I love to shop. I love to shop. I love to teach children. And Ralph, her husband, loves for me to go shopping and he loves for me to teach children. She can teach as little, not at all, or as much as she wants. She pretty much could do whatever she wanted. And she pretty much did whatever she wanted. It's like, and I'm thinking the whole no, she did what she wanted. And your aunt, your grandmother sounds like
exactly the same. Traveled all around the world, did all these things.
They're close in our lives for a reason. So how is this playing into your manifesting? Because in less than a year, your job, your business has really exploded. So, and it sounds like for 9 months, you know, we all have issues of unworthiness. That's part of the human condition. So of course, you know, you lose your job and you're discounting 17 years of marketing experience, all the expertise and everything that you've done in the past. Now, because you're self-employed by choice and you're discounting, giving your power away we all do this. We give our power away and we think that we need these consultants, these mentors and so forth, but we can do this. So take us through the shifts and the nuances and how you were able to master yourself again and have it all come to fruition where you're in the state that you are now.
So I continued on with this mentor a little longer, but I shifted to a different niche. I didn't work with dentists anymore. I worked with accountants and that went pretty well. And then I got to this point, like you said, where I was like, this mentor is great. I've learned a lot of skills, but it's not the kind of business I want to build for myself. And I don't know what kind of business I want to build for myself. So I'm just going to do a bit of everything. I'm going to just eat from the buffet and then I'll figure it out, because I've not figured it out by following the guru's paths, these mentors, these business owners. And this is like going against everything these business owners say, because they're tried and tested. They've made millions of dollars. They're like, this is the path. And my path is just do anything that comes your way until you feel what resonates with you. And that's around the time that I got to know Kyle Cease. And if you don't know him, he talks a lot about like, does it feel heavy or light? Like, you know,
he's a personal friend of mine.
No way. Oh my goodness. He's so amazing. And I joined his program.
Wow, that's a trip. I never expected you to mention his name. Yeah.
Really?
I know him from before when he was a stand-up comedian.
No way.
And then
Oh
he
my goodness.
yeah. So okay. So keep going. I love I use that with my private clients a lot. You know, when they can't make a decision, it's like what's right or wrong or what's the best thing. I'm like, let's take that out. What feels lighter and lighter in terms of light as well as weight? What feels heavier and darker? And then they're like, oh, now the answer is so obvious. So
Yeah. So I really took a lot from Kyle. I think he came into my life at the right time. You know, he came in at the right time with like, sometimes I felt like he was talking directly to me. I'm like, oh my goodness, I just needed to hear that. This heavy and light thing started to play in, and I just broke off from the mainstream. This is how you build an advertising agency that currently exists in the, you know, online today. And I just joined a networking group, and I just started to do any kind of marketing work for different businesses. And then I knew what I loved doing. I just couldn't see how I could make money out of it. And I regret now not listening to my own inside saying, and I have a mentor now that says to me, stay in your gifts, or something along those lines, like stay in your gifts, stay in what you're good at. Don't be trying to do something else over here because you think you should. So I went back to what my strength is, which is strategy and branding. And that's what I'm passionate about. And that's what I love. And that's what lights me up. And as I was working with all these clients doing these random things, I started to see that I could help them with strategy. And as I helped them with strategy, I got more clients where they wanted help with strategy. And I got a lot of referrals, and I was in a networking group, and I was doing all kinds of strategy for different businesses, and they really needed it. And it was when they spoke to me, they realized that was what was missing. That was why their marketing wasn't working, because they didn't have a strategy. And I was like, well, that's what I can help with. And then that led me to personal brand strategy, which is where I'm at now. And I've like realized this is it. You know, this is where I put the stake in the ground and go, this is home. I got it. I found it. Finally, like, this is it. I know it's right, because it's just so freaking easy and fun. And I can do it all the time.
Yes.
And I can't put my pen down. I have to keep going. So then this is it. I've reached the destination for now, for right now. Yes. And I had, I started to have like readings and stuff, and they were like, you know, you're not, like, I knew I wasn't at that point. And I know in myself that what I do now is not the end game. It's just another step in the road, but it's what's right for me right now. And it's perfectly right. And so, yeah, so I've been able to bring in a lot more clients. I've started to build, or I've built a coaching program, an online coaching program. I have clients in that program. Yeah, I've been able to, you know, get to a point where my revenue is increasing. And just in December, I've like crossed over like double what I would have earned in corporate. And that just happened this month. Like, and I was literally at the beginning of every month, I look at my profit and loss and I'm like, I have no idea how much money I'm going to make this month. Like, I looked at the beginning of December and I was like, maybe I can bring in 4 or 5K. And then look at me now, like, just like even just before Christmas, I was like, people were signing up.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is so absolutely brilliant, because you honored yourself in doing what felt right, what gave you joy, what was easy, what you you were operating in your gifts instead of what your left brain was saying, well, you know, the responsible thing for you to do is XYZ and yada, yada. No, you were true to yourself. And luckily you aligned with a mentor like Kyle, who is telling you, it's like, what feels lighter to you? Does it feel, if you're feeling like you have to push yourself to get up and to do this every day, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. It feels fun. It's joyous. It's you're operating in your gifts, which means that more of your innate gifts are going to start to bubble up and reveal themselves because you're in that higher vibrational frequency. So this is so absolutely fantastic. I want to honor Sean Hines, who asked in the Dr. Joe meditation group. I put a posting if you guys have any questions, and he had a question about mind movies. So Sean, I'm going to unmute you so that you can ask Louise directly, because you had a mind movie question. Okay, Sean, can you ask Louise your question?
Hey, Louise, thank you.
Hi.
You know, I think a lot of us have a lot of desires and interests, and I actually created a mind movie with mine. And, you know, I've got about 4 different things I'm going for in there. And I think maybe having less would be more effective, or I think some people have more. I want to get your thoughts on hey, how many things should we try to manifest at once instead of maybe adding everything we possibly want? That makes sense?
Wow, that's a really good question. Yeah, it's a great question because I've asked myself that so many times before.
Sure.
It comes down to how strong your intention is. It really does. Like if you can hold all those things and have a really strong intention about them, then they can all happen in their own way, in their own time. So if that makes sense. So like if you have a really strong, because like you could have as many things as you want, like there's no, like nothing's big or small or hard or difficult for the universe. It's like only us that create that. And so how hard you think it is for it to happen is how long it would then take to come. You know, like I think Abraham Hicks talks about like you want like to manifest a cup of coffee or a mansion. Like it's the same to the universe. It's just our like level of belief around it. So if you can hold 4 things in there and walk around like they've already happened, by all means, like do it. Like right now I have a whole bunch of things that I'm in the process of bringing about, and they're like all different things. Like one is my fitness, another one is money in my business, like many different things. And there's a really interesting book that I recommend reading, Pocket Full of Money.
I've not heard of that. Who's it by?
Let me just check. I've got it on my Audible, and he says he had this really great let me see, what's it called? Yeah, A Happy Pocket Full of Money. If you can see that there, I really recommend this book. It really aligns.
David Gilandi.
David Cameron Gikandi. And that book really aligns with what Dr. Joe teaches. It's amazing. And he said that this was his idea, which I really love, is write 2,000 things that you want to manifest, 2,000 things. So it could be a pair of trainers, it could be a pen, it could be a mansion, it could be, but he said the people, they did this test, and the people that wrote 2,000 things that they wanted to manifest, where it could be this vase of flowers that will sit on the table in my mansion is one of the 2,000 things. They ended up manifesting so much more than the people that had less things on the list, because you're just giving the universe a bigger range of things to work with, right?
I love that you're saying that, because Esther Hicks, when she's channeling Abraham, she says over and over and over again, it doesn't matter if it's a button or if it's a castle. As far as the divine, the universal energy, it doesn't care. For us, a $5 bill or $100 bill, the universe is like it's ink on a piece of paper. The paper is the same. So whether it has a 5 written on there or 100 makes no difference. It's like the same thing to create that paper, just the same to put $50 in, to have a wire transfer that shows up on your cell phone app for your bank that says $50 versus $5 million or $500,000. It's just zeros and ones. It's just digits on a screen. So for the universe, that's not exactly a tall order. We're the ones who go, oh, 50,000, 500,000, 5 million. It's like, that's a big, it's not a big manifestation. It's the same, what difference does it do for me to go 500,000 on my computer keyboard as opposed to adding a couple more zeros? It's the same effort. It's not. So yeah, there's the same amount of energy. It's like you're saying, the clearer the intention is. And Zig Ziglar, actually in his book, See You at the Top, which I don't know when that book was published, but I read that like 20 years ago. And he tells you to write on the back side of the book, like on the inside covers, to write down 100 things that you want to accomplish in your lifetime. So it's kind of along the same lines that you're talking about. And I actually have my copy, and a lot of those things of the 100, I ended up like crossing. I did that. And what you find is it's like, okay, I need to start adding more things to my list. So I don't think there's, we live in a infinite world of possibilities. And as your likes and wants change, you may want a house that's 4,000 square feet, 6 bedroom, 6.5 bath. 5 years from now or 3 years from now, you may want something different, or you may want a second home, or it doesn't really matter. This is the plane, because we have a physical body and we have consciousness that we can direct. This is where we get to taste chocolate. This is where we get to create that. Because without a human body, you can't do that when you're just in spirit energy form. So there's no limits. It's like whatever we choose.
Yeah. So I totally recommend going for a lot of things. And what comes up for me in a lot of my meditations is oneness a lot, like experiencing it or receiving downloads about it. And one of the downloads that I received was, if we are everyone, then we are money. Everyone's bank account is your bank account.
Mm-hmm. It's all the same.
You kind of have to, you kind of have to get into that mindset of there is no separation between you and what you want. We've just that's the illusion. That's the Adam and Eve falling from the Garden of Eden into the illusion.
From grace.
That was it. Was that they started believing the outside world more than the inside world. That's what happened.
Yeah. Well, I love that you're saying that, because the very first day at the Dr. Joe event, the 7-day event I went to, June 2019 in Cancun. And in the morning, it was the latter part of the morning. And in meditation, I heard, and I was like, I sat up straight as soon as I heard this voice that said, I'm one with the one, I am the one. And I went, what? I'm one with, and then I thought to myself, I'm one with the one, I am the one. Then I heard it, I'm one with the one, I am the one. I'm like, ooh, I like that. So from that day, from that moment forward, every single one of my meditations, I always say, I'm one with the one, I am the one. I said it because it resonated. Later on, I realized how powerful my acknowledging, hearing that, and then repeating it, and then embracing it. My intention is that I'm one with the one, I am the one. And so what I was doing was making myself complete and whole with everything that is. And that's probably why so many healings, manifestations, all sorts of stuff has happened. Not to say that everything is perfect, because I think that as long as we're breathing, there will always be things that we're wanting to manifest and create. But it really is magical, the things that, that we've been able to create. But yeah, I'm one with the one, I am the one. So that oneness it's a very huge distinction.
Yeah, it's easier to experience it in meditation than to discuss it intellectually. Because I can't convey what it is that I've experienced being one.
Yeah, I would have to agree, because there's no amount of words. I don't know that I would have gotten it had someone told me, oh, just say you're one with the one. I would have thought, oh, that's like a nice affirmation. But because it came in meditation and it was so like clear, it was like, oh, it just resonated. I knew enough to pay attention to things that resonate. When something resonates, like your message so resonates. It's like, oh my gosh, I almost feel like our hearts are beating at the exact same rhythm. And so that's a sign for me to pay more attention than things that are dissonant in their energy to me. So, and I think that's a message to all of us, but yeah, so in meditation, I think that any of us here, we have those Botech meditations that we've been doing. I've done like 4 classes so far. You can just go ahead and watch those. And as you begin your meditation, just say, you can say it out loud, or you can say it I always say it in my inner mind. I say, I'm one with the one, I am the one. I'm one with the one, I am the one. Very lightly. It's not like I'm trying really hard. I'm not trying to be one with the one. I'm just acknowledging that I'm one with the one, I am the one. And then now there's no separation between you and the energy of the all. And now whatever your clear intention is, you add that elevated emotion and the magic happens. So,
yeah.
So I would be remiss if I didn't put the offer out there for people to get a hold of you, because there's bound to be some who want to, in their businesses professionally, they want to hire you, they want to interact with you and get some of that strategic personal branding and marketing to have that. It's hard, it's very challenging. I've owned businesses for the last 30 years, and it's hard to find somebody in marketing who actually can do and can actually pull off and execute a good marketing plan that will give you results. So right here we have someone who is actually doing that and has a pure heart, has a great intention. So if what would be the best way for them to get a hold of you if someone wanted to reach out to you for that specific thing?
Yeah, so for that specific thing, you can go to my website, which is gohudsondigital.com, or you can connect with me on Facebook, Louise Booth. So that's what I recommend. And yeah, happy to have a chat about your business, or even if you just want to, learn more about my journey, anything, I'm super happy to connect that way. There's one last thing that I wanted to mention.
Yes.
So one thing I noticed with Dr. Joe, with his events, he talks about being in love with life and about having those kind of almost like quantum events happen in a meditation where you're changed, your energy changes, and people say, oh, it looks like have you done something different to your hair? Do you remember him having those kind of things that he said? Well, I had one of those events happen to me about 2 weeks ago. Like, I did the pineal gland meditation, which never works for me. Never. I call it the boring meditation because it never works. I was awake at 4 a.m. I was like, well, I'm up at the right time. I'm just going to do it. I don't expect anything. And I had the biggest mystical experience and shift of my entire life, like shifted me. And I was in love with life. I know what he means now about being in love with life. It's like when you're in love with someone, like when you go on a date with someone and then you can't stop thinking about them and you've got that feeling where you just don't want to eat and you don't want to sleep because it was just like, that's what it feels like when you're in love with life.
Wow.
And then it actually happened. People said to me the next day, something's different about you. Did you change your hair? That's exactly the way he said it. So I just kind of wanted to share that it can happen to all of us very easily and exactly the way he says.
Well, yeah. And, he talks about, sometimes I think he doesn't talk enough about that, because there is a quantum shift where your physical body and your appearance can change. But also, he does talk about time. I don't have the time travelers. I have Piercing the Veil from one of the events that one of the Dr. Joe 7-day events. But he like his advanced follow-up in Marco Island in September, the theme was time traveling. And the reality is every single time we do a meditation, we're time traveling, because there's no such thing as time. We can go into the past, we can go into the future. It doesn't really make a difference, but we're time traveling. But what's uncanny is that you can jump timelines and then you get back. This is still mind-blowing to me. You can come back into your conscious awareness, to your 3D reality of wherever it is that you live. And then 99% of it is the same, not 100%. And that's how you know that you jumped a timeline. You're like, wait a minute. It just happened to me a few days ago. I don't know if you can see from here, but I'm going to point it down. Over under the tree, over there, that dark spot, that's a fireplace. Well, oftentimes I'll put it on around this time because it gets colder at night, and it's been dropping down to the low 50s, which for us in California, that's like, oh, it's like Alaska. It's so cold. So we turn on the fireplace, and then I on purpose turn it off before I go to sleep, because otherwise it's too hot when I get up in the morning. So I very much, turned it off. And then on purpose that evening, I did my meditation, and then I went into like this, I've been playing with breath work for the last 3 days. So I did this major like breath work, didn't really look at the time. And then when I woke up, it wasn't yesterday, it was the day before yesterday. I woke up, and after I did my meditation, I said, okay, I'm here on, it's like, I don't have any private clients for the rest of the year and so forth. So I have extra time. So I'm just going to play with breath work after my meditation. And I had done the meditation that I did had to do with quantum jumping, like timelines to manifest certain things. And so when I went to sleep at night, I on purpose turned the fireplace on. When I finally got up, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was 3 hours that I played with breath work. The fireplace was on. And I was like, that's impossible. I know for a fact I made sure that it was off. how did it turn on? I thought that was so bizarre. So they were like, that was like the major thing. There was another small thing that I noticed was different. And I know for a fact that I had moved this one item and that was off. And I thought, I must have quantum shift to another timeline where just a few things I'm evidencing so that I know that there's a change. So now I'm curious to see how things are going to play out, because I don't know when, I don't know how, it doesn't matter. I know that I have these specific manifestations in queue, and you keep on playing with the energy, just knowing that it's just a matter of, it's going to happen. You just keep on playing with it.
Wow, that's amazing. And I've not even done any of those kind of meditations yet. So
it's just,
you're just a week long.
Yeah, it's just, and you don't even have to go to a week long. We played a little bit with some of the people here. We're on the 90-day consciousness experiment that we started last May. And it's just using your consciousness. That's the key, is like you can apply the formula, and it's wherever you put your conscious awareness, that's how you can start to manifest all sorts of things. And whether you want a quantum jump, whether, it doesn't matter if it's a car, like Esther says, whether it's a button or a castle, the universe doesn't really care. It's like whatever you focus on, that's what really matters. So, oh my gosh. So how very fun that your friends are noticing those changes in you, and they're about to keep noticing, and your clients are going to keep noticing more and more. And we're just having fun molding the clay.
It's crazy. I had 2 Christmas cards from people from my business network. And you know what it said in the Christmas cards?
Mm-mm.
I love your energy.
Oh my God.
So random.
That is so awesome. That's more encouragement. Keep going, keep going.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, this is so fantastic. Well, Louise, I'm so excited. I'm going to make sure that in the description, both on the Facebook group as well as on the YouTube on Love and Money Secrets TV, we'll put your information so that they can reach you in the Facebook group, the Dr. Joe meditation group, your Facebook contact itself, as well as what was the other one? There was gohudsondigital.com, I believe, was your website. So we'll put all of that so that people can get in touch with you. And is there anything else that you want to share with the group? Or do you have any exciting plans for the Dr. Joe meditation group? Or I know you've been interviewing other Dr. Joe
yes, I'm going to do more
love.
interviews. So the reason I set up the Dr. Joe meditation group was because sometimes when I do a meditation, I get instructions, and the instruction was very clearly set up this group. So I just did it. And in the beginning, I didn't really have that many people in there. And I was like, the universe told me to set it up. I did. I'm just going to leave it to do its thing. And now look, it's like 82,000 people in there or something.
Yeah.
And then the universe came again and said, you need to interview people that have had success stories in the group. So that's what I'm doing. I'm probably dragging a bit behind expectations, but that was what came to me.
Oh my gosh. And your interview with Chad Martini was phenomenal. So thank you so much for that interview. Just keep doing them, and just keep going forward. So I just love you to pieces. You are so amazing. And thank you for accepting to do this show. And
thank you for having me. It's been amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, and when you come, notice how I said when, when you come to the United States and when you come to California, you'll have to come, we'll have to get together. We'll have to have dinner. You'll have to come stay with me. And, we're going to keep on molding the clay. If any of you guys, let me read to you who's on here. Because some of the people put down where they're from. We have Sangeeta from Saskatchewan, Canada. We have Renata from the Kersey Island, British Columbia. We have, if anybody else wants to put where they're from, I know that Sean happens to be from Florida. I don't know if anyone else wants to put where they're from. So we've got people from all over the globe we've got Diana from Spain.
Wow.
From Spain. I'm part Spanish, so that's wonderful to see someone from Spain. So yeah, we've got people from all over the globe that tuned in today. So Thank you so much. You have a great rest. You're starting your day. We're ending our day here. And thank you again, Louise. You're just a joyous soul.
Oh, thank you. It's been such a pleasure. Thanks so much.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in, tapping in, turning on to Love and Money Secrets TV. I'm your host, Dame Lillian Walker. Make sure you hit the like button, you share this with a friend, and you hit that notification bell so that you can hear more wonderful stories of transformation and be notified when we go live. All right. Take care and ciao for now.